Hello, everybody, and welcome to the NDM Podcast, where we bring together notorious disruptive minds who represent the best business leaders within their respective industries. These guests will tell you about professional and personal insights and the latest industry trends. My name is Nicholas Falcone. I'll be one of your hosts today, and I'm the CEO of NDM Hospitality and Rental Resorts. At NDM Hospitality, we provide management services in the spaces of long-term rental homes, apartments, retail, entertainment, and food and beverage. And our fastest growing business, Rental Resorts, is providing branding, management, and consulting services on how to develop and bring to life residential resorts all around the world. I'm joined here by my co-host, my partner, and my brother, also the COO of our companies, Matthew Falcone. And we're excited to kick this off and have a great show. What got you guys to want to be in this business? We'll start with you, Sonny.
I never wanted to be in this business.
I hear that a lot.
Yeah, I never wanted to be in this business. You know, when I went to school, it was for pre-med, but I was always passionate about nutrition. And growing up in hospitality, working at restaurants, I saw a massive disconnect where I was like, no one was focusing on health.
Coming into BurgerFi, what do you guys think is like the biggest challenges and also the biggest wins that you've had since being with the brand?
Yeah, it's a mouthful. I mean, it's been 6 hard months, and the challenges, are just the brand's hit so much adversity over the past several years that like altering the trajectory of that, it's not like just 1 or 2 good ideas. There had to be a series and a calculated plan to implement like really good, successful paths.
When I was growing up, if you're a GM of a restaurant, that meant something.
Yeah.
That really meant like, some like pride. Whereas nowadays, I feel like that has diminished a little bit. So within my own organization, we're really trying to prop up that position of really, explaining to our leaders the importance of their role at the company and how much, the success of our company relies on their effort. When I meet a candidate or when I see one of our leaders in our company show us that initiative and that drive, man, it fires me up so much. Like it makes me so like, it makes you want to give this person the best. And like, I think that's one of the, it's one of the benefits of our job that's very rewarding is that you can really impact people's lives.
For sure.
Like for us, like, we have a general manager at our company who's now multi-unit. And he's the first homeowner in his family.
That's awesome.
He's the first, like these little things. And like, he never, he was working at other places that passed up on him. Like he would work there for 15 years in the kitchen, never gave him a chance. We gave him a chance. We developed him. We got him. We pushed him. We motivated him. And to see someone thrive in your organization and succeed, to me, it's super special.
There's no better feeling.
Yeah. And like how I like to incentivize is bonuses. I really like to motivate bonuses and tranche out bonuses quarterly to where they're not waiting to the end of the year. I think that sometimes there's some sort of demotivation as well, where like they get on autopilot if they're like, like it's at the end of the year. But when somebody knows something's happening in a 90-day time horizon, I think nowadays I can say like, we're all dealing with less attention spans, right? And things like that. And instant gratification is something that's true. Like all of us want it, and I don't think it's just the Gen Z and like, I don't even know the name of the next generation. I don't even know that. I call them iPads. Just call them iPads. But
iPads.
I just call them iPads. Yeah. But for me, like we're all living in instant gratification. So like, why wait a whole year to give this guy a bonus or this woman a bonus? 90 days, boom, you get it, you earn it, you deserve it, and really celebrate it, with them. And I think, all of us are high, performing individuals, and we also have very high standards. Something that I think need to like, I definitely need to focus on, but I think everyone, in our position should focus on is really being able to celebrate the wins with your team. And that's something I'm focusing on more of this year is really celebrating and having those moments of doing things where, you're building those memories and with your team to really say, you know what, like we're not only are we hitting our goals, but we're having fun doing it.
For sure.
Love it. So at this point, I want to change gears a little bit, right? Want the audience to get to know you guys a little bit more from a personal perspective. So, Sonny, let's stay with you for a second. And by the way, on this question, you could do personal or professional, but what's a single fun fact? Like what's something that most people don't know about Sonny?
I mean, what I don't know? I don't know. I mean,
He's a world traveler.
I'm definitely a world traveler. You know, I love traveling. I mean, for me, like, actually, I would say like the food at Vail. You know, so like the food at Vail, I travel the world, whether it's domestic, international, and I'm searching for ingredients.
Yeah.
I'm searching for certain things that I can pour back into the menu, because for me, the way my brain works is I'm always trying to drive proprietary.
Yep.
Because what's the difference between going to a bowl concept or a restaurant if they all have the same raw ingredients? At the end of the day, the competitive advantage is going to be you have to have something that they cannot get somewhere else.
Yeah.
So for me, like, I'm always focused on proprietary and trying to drive that in. And like, I try to keep myself, you know, open-minded and like really make sure like things are synergistic with our menu.
Yeah.
Because there are some times where for sure I've had some crazy ideas. I'm like, wait, this doesn't make any sense. I cannot bring this on board. But when I've traveled to Brazil, I had acai there. I had this other super fruit that like people don't even know about here, and I'm trying to bring this product in. When I went to, you know, Los Angeles, like I found this like really rare like coconut cream that's imported from Indonesia.
That's amazing.
And like, you know, so like for me, when I travel, I'm just constantly searching for new flavors and things that I can pour back into Vail, because our menu is featuring the world's flavors.
On that, anytime I've traveled to other countries, it's amazing. You'll look at fruit, you'll look at different products, and you're like, that's not what it looks like in America.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts, you know, being an international traveler and studying foods? Like, what do you see when you go to other?
I was just in the Bahamas, and the size of the banana was double or triple, and I was like, man, this thing is huge, you know. And or
Are you
the
seeing
flavor-
better quality products that you're sourcing overseas?
I think our quality in America is awful. You know, I'll be honest with you. I think that the way, you know, like what we are eating here, you know, across the board is really, when it comes to produce specifically, I think on, you know, fruit, veggies is really, really a lot lower in quality compared to Europe, compared to even South America. You know, I think, you know, I mean, definitely, I mean, I can't really say. I think meat like is, you know, relatively better here, and I think some of our standards of meat is really solid here. I think that dairy is another big one. You know, where you can taste the difference in milk. You can taste the difference in eggs and cheese. You know, like it's one of those things where I really wish that we can have a more of a farming revolution here, where farming is sexy again. You know, or like it's, you know, something to where like we can really get the masses at least fresh, high quality ingredients.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super important. You know, I'm actually very big into, you know, into growing my own vegetables, you know, during season. I actually have a garden here. And, you know, with that, you brought up, you know, just produce and everything like that. One thing with produce right now is just the growing practices. You know, they're trying to grow for, you know, the masses. They're trying to grow as much as humanly possible so they can keep up with, you know, with production, you know, and keep up with the demand of everything. And that's part of the issue is, you know, our country has kind of gone away, you know, from the overall quality and, you know, really focusing on the freshness and, you know, using, you know, organic type, you know, soils and, you know, and fertilizers and whatever else in order to grow food products. Now they just throw anything on there and, you know, just to make it look good and whatever else. And that's kind of, you know, one of the bigger issues.
Yeah, it's tough for us too. Like, you know, we like, there's customers and, you know, guests of ours that come in and they're like, oh, like you should work with this local farm.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, I'm going through 1,000 pounds.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I would love to, but yeah, they can't keep up. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And like, it's tougher. And like, you know, we do hope that as we grow, like we can make a big impact on in farming, and like maybe one day we have our own farm, but you know, at this current, you know, junction, like it's not really in the cards for us, but it's tough, you know?
Yep.
If you ever want to get into that, I've been trying to do that. One of my buddies is very big into the whole farming industry. And we've always talked about creating a concept where, you know, we have our own farm, but, you know, it's some sort of food and beverage type of establishment, you know, that we can, you know, really tie it in with, which would be kind of cool. So if you ever want to get into that, you let me know. Yeah. I know you're into healthy food too. So,
Well, when Nick asked the question, I started like really going to this place of self-deprecation. And fun fact about me, like there's a lot of really things.
Maybe a little extra time to think about
And
that.
Sonny answered eloquently, professionally, and I was kind of like sitting here like, man, my answer sucks. then Matt says, I'm into gardening. Like, yes, I know, me too. That's where I landed. Like, I genuinely have like, when I was walking out of the house, I live in New Orleans. I travel out of town. I'm home for the weekends usually. And when I was leaving the house, I told my wife goodbye, I love you. And I said, if that plant flowers, send me a picture. And I'm like, who the hell am I? You know, I can't believe I care, but I want to see, you know, if it's just what it is. Right. So the direct answer is I really enjoy the gardening. I enjoy the outdoors. I enjoy my yard and growing things. I really enjoy that.
We sound like such dads.
It's terrible, absolutely terrible. So you can cut this part out for sure, because nobody can say what is life out there, right?
I actually have a comment on the healthy. So, and it's a question for you actually. I have something called Crohn's disease, right? And so, with any kind of irritable bowel disease or anything like that, you have to eat healthy. You have to really focus on what you eat. I'd love to get a perspective of you, like from you. Do you market to that type of audience, or do you find that a lot of people appreciate what you do? Because I'll tell you, like, as someone who's gluten-free, has a lot of diet restrictions, your place is one of the only places I can go out to eat. So I just wonder, do you get that feedback?
I'll tell you a story. This is absolutely mind-blowing, and I'm so happy that it warms my heart that you can actually go and eat out at my restaurant and trust my
multiple stuff too. Yeah, usually it's like one on the menu. Yeah.
So we haven't. There's a lady that is in Jacksonville who I believe she has eaten at my restaurant. I think it's 100 days in a row. I'm not kidding you. I found out at day 45. I was then notified, hey, this individual, she's coming.
She's here every day.
She's asking a lot of questions. She's asking a lot of questions, and she's saying she's a super, Vail fan, and we accommodated all her dietary restrictions. She has Crohn's, and she has I think a few other conditions, and we started customizing stuff for her to order, and started doing things off menu. And I'm very proud of my leadership team accommodating the guest and doing those things for her to make her feel included. And the number one thing that she said to me is that she loves Vail so much because it made her feel normal again. Yeah. That she can actually go out with her friends, go out with her coworkers, and eat somewhere and not feel excluded. And for me, I was talking to her, and she's now, she single-handedly is growing my Jacksonville store. Okay. It's incredible. She's booking caterings and doing things, for her friends, and she's spreading the word for us. And it really is something I should lean in more into. I just haven't had the time to kind of go after that niche.
So you're looking for a sales and catering person. There she is.
I know.
But they get too much money over her.
I got to keep her as a guest.
What our marketing team did is we put together a really nice, Vail swag bag, bunch of stuff, gift cards, awesome. Really hooked her up. And I kid you not, she has visited all the Vails, I believe.
That's awesome.
I saw her.
Yeah, that's how you create a lifetime thing.
She went with her boyfriend. She went to all the Vails.
That's awesome.
And took pictures and stuff. And it's a great feeling, when someone loves your brand and they actually appreciate the work that you're doing. Because for all of us, we're looking at KPIs.
Yeah, exactly.
We're looking at KPIs. We're not looking at the smiles every day. Yeah. When we're in our four walls, we get to see them, and it's great to see that you have happy guests. But when you see someone really value what you're doing, it makes you feel good.
No, it's amazing, especially being able to impact the health and everything. That's spectacular. Super cool.
So you have Crohn's. So your restrictions are gluten and dairy, or
all kinds of gluten, red meat, alcohol, carbonation, seeds, nuts, shellfish. I can go on and on. It's very restrictive. Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Give you an excuse to be angry.
He just got a procedure done, that he's trying to.
Do you guys serve gluten-free pizza at your
we do.
Okay, cool.
We do, but we don't have dairy-free cheese. Okay. But so
I can do dairy, so I'll be trying your gluten-free pizza. I look forward to that.
Thank you.
So one thing you can eat is dairy, chicken, and rice, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay.
But sticking with the personal, I want to ask you, because something you said earlier today really got me going. Both of us are fathers. I got 4 kids. Matt has 3. Hearing you talk about your son, and kind of that work-life balance, and the passion I could feel from you of being able to kind of reconnect with him at 7 and just take that relationship to the next level.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about how you
try to get work-life, aren't you?
We're trying. I'm
the weakness. Yeah.
But tell.
I didn't realize you were such a softie.
Tell us the secrets of your work-life balance. What are things that you do to focus? I think all of us out there that are professionals, from time to time, we struggle with that.
Yeah, I really struggle with it. I suck at it, honestly. I'm blessed to have a great wife that's supportive and understands. I'm very passionate about what I do, and I don't have the balance. I generally don't. Fortunately, Mother Nature intervened and forced me to be a good dad for a while. But as soon as I got back into the business, like there was a separation. The good thing that happened is my son was older. He had a social life and he wasn't waiting for dad every night. He wanted to go play with his friends and do other things. So, you know, I wish I had good lessons and good perspectives about that, but I am not a good example of finding that balance.
Yeah. I wouldn't claim to be either. What about you, Sonny? How you do with that?
I mean, right now, no, I don't have any children, so, but you know, for work-life balance, I mean, it's tough. You know, you live life, and you know, when when you carry a lot of responsibility, it's hard to turn off. It's hard to turn off the brain and like really be present. Like there's times when I'm with my family, and they can tell like things are on my head and on my mind, and I'm really just going.
Yep.
And I think it's just finding some sort of harmony. Right. Where you can, like, for me, I love traveling, and I was really unhappy, in the early part of my, career, because I was just grueling, grinding, working, insane amount of hours. And I always like villainized travel. I was in my brain. I was like, oh no, I can't travel. And then I started, to figure it out. He says, you know what, let me try to, travel and still fit in a little bit of work while I travel.
Yep.
And I started it. And then I realized I could sneak away for a couple of days. Then I did it for 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. And then I was able, after I built a team, I was able to do a 10-day trip, 14-day trip, once or twice a year, but I was still plugged in, and it like satisfied me as like the workaholic to just like, all right, I'm still plugged in a little bit. I'm still communicating. I know what's going on. I'm doing, 1 to 2 hours of work a day, but I'm really impactful on what I'm doing. And that really helped me, I would say get a balance. And now I actually motivate myself like that.
Yeah.
So what I do is every quarter I take a trip. Every 90 days I take a trip, but I use the trip as motivation, and I set goals. And if I don't hit those goals, there's no trip.
Yeah.
If I hit the goals, I take the trip. So I'm using that as like my own way to hack myself. So like motivate myself and get myself excited about the job, of course, every single day, like, it's the crazy industry, you guys know, just high stress in it. So these even we need incentives, so that's how I do that for myself.
Nick, I do want to say something like from my own personal, and I hate to call it advice, but what worked for me.
That was actually my next question. What's the best advice? So, perfect segue.
Well, with work-life balance, I'm not a really good friend to many of my friends.
Yeah.
But I found my mom, my dad, they're still both alive. They're getting older. I focus on them. I focus on my son and his fiance and my wife.
Yeah.
And that's my circle. And every Sunday we're together. I cook for them. We spend time, and it's really like I'll get interrupted with work. They understand that's my life.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like I don't have great friendships, but I have a really tight, small group of people. And by doing it that way, I'm not diluted on the little bit of time that I have.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel you on that. And, going back to something that Sonny said, and I believe you said earlier today, we as leaders, it's hard to shut off, right? We use the term we're firefighters, right? Because it's a great analogy. You mentioned, I think earlier, that you get call after call, and you have to put out problems, right?
Sure.
We call it firefighters because if you're a firefighter, you can't just wait to put out the fire, right? If you wait, someone's dying, places are burning down. You have to be there. You have to be there now, and that's kind of the approach I've always taken to business. And I will say that, very similarly, you start to prioritize, right? You start to say, what's the most important? Where do I really want to spend that time when I have it? And, so it resonates with me in a big way for sure. But, I also, I would say it's a great piece of advice to really, think about, those other dynamics and, have that focus. So that definitely resonates.
You always need to have time for yourself and for your family. That's the most important thing. No matter how busy you are, that's the way I look at it is, you can't, just shut them off. Obviously, we always have stuff going on no matter what. I always joke around with Chris about this all the time. Chris Heckros, our director of ops for BurgerFi. We get calls constantly every single night. And it's funny because, when I first started off, I was very, very heavily in the stores. And Chris was just first starting, within our company. And now he's, really leading as the director of ops, and he's kind of feeling it where he's getting all the phone calls and everything at night, all times of the night. So it never turns off. But at the end of the day, the way I look at it is you always have to be able to find time for your family, and you always have to be able to find time for yourself. Because if not, you're going to end up going crazy.
And Sonny, going to you, if you had one piece of advice that you could offer the audience, what would that be?
Let's hear from our sponsor, Rental Resorts.
Today's traveler wants more than a hotel room. They want space, service, and experiences that feel effortless. Rental Resorts delivers all three, combining the comfort of a private home with the amenities of a world-class resort. It's a model that transforms second homes and residences into thriving hospitality assets. For owners and investors, rental provides turnkey management, global marketing, and a guest experience that builds loyalty and drives profitability. For destinations, it means longer stays, more spending, and guests who return year after year. From family reunions to luxury getaways, rental makes living life on vacation a reality. And that vision, backed by proven operations and powerful brand partnerships, is reshaping hospitality worldwide. Rental Resorts, where lifestyle meets performance.
And Sonny, going to you, if you had one piece of advice that you could offer the audience, what would that be?
If you're getting in this industry,
Yeah, business, personal, anything.
Don't get into the industry.
Well, that's advice you can give somebody.
I mean, I think that, you know, whether it's in life, work, personal, you know, whatever, you know, you can live in your mind by making something bigger than it really is. And a lot of times, I think a lot of people, from what I observe, and even if I'm talking to my younger self, you know, a lot of people suffer from analysis paralysis, you know, where they're overthinking and they're not doing anything.
Yeah.
The secret to why I'm in this position today isn't because I'm an expert restaurateur. It's because I know how to fail and I know how to move fast to fix.
Mhm.
It's because I'm not trying to move a mountain in one day, but I'm that guy chipping away. I'm doing something, you know, I'm just trying to get a few things done every single day. And I took a kind of this playbook out of, you know, Bezos, you know, as I got older as well, is like, I think towards the part of his, like later part of his career, he just tried to do like 3 to 4, like impactful, like very big impactful things a day.
Mhm.
Like, you know, trying to do that to move the needle. Stop trying to do 20 things, you know, in a day. But it depends on where you're at and what you have. And for me, I'm a big believer of just the compound effect,
Yep.
right? Of just like getting those little things done every single day. That's going to move yourself into a better place in your life, move your business into a better position, your family, no matter what it is. But all those little intentional efforts, they compound over time and you realize you just climbed a mountain.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. We talk about it all the time. You can't eat an elephant in one bite. You gotta take those steps. So that resonates in a big way too.
Yeah. So, you know, it's kind of a question for both of you guys. You know, all 4 of us really started off as pretty much working in the business, you know, in the thick of the business. I know Nick and I, when we first started, we were working 80 to 100 hours a week within the restaurants. You know, one of us would open, the other one would close. You know, we'd be running from restaurant to restaurant, you know, really before we, you know, really grew the business into more stores. And then now stepping into our roles now, we're at a lot higher level roles where we're not in the day-to-day as much. And sometimes me personally, I find that myself, you know, that I like itch to get into the day-to-day and I itch to really get my hands dirty. And
I saw you yesterday. He was in the store and he was behind. He was on the line.
And that's something that gets me excited at the end of the day, right? Is like, and that's really what I love doing, is working alongside the people that are within the business and really getting back to the roots. So, you know, with that, how do you guys, you know, I'll start with you, Casey. How do you personally handle, you know, from where you first started, you know, and kind of, you know, changing that mentality and getting into more of a higher level role and having to really manage a business and manage all the people below you as well?
I don't know. I mean, I don't have like a hardcore answer. I think it's perspective. I will say that the times in which I did the actual role and then managed that role, I was so good at it, you know, like just, it gave me a whole lot of confidence going into it. And then in our careers, we get put in positions where, you know, have I ever marketed before? No, I have a understanding of marketing, but I have to trust the people I work with.
For sure.
And, you know, and I guess like at the end of the day, like the how is, I don't have a definitive answer to that. I can just say from a relatability standpoint, I'm so comfortable at my point in my life, like being vulnerable and going, I don't know, I have to trust somebody to do something better. Yeah. And I think that is my secret weapon. My wife hates when I say this. I say I'm smart enough to know I'm not that smart. and I genuinely believe that's a skill to go, you know what, like I don't know, I'd rather ask the question and learn from people.
Got it. What about you, Sonny?
Refresh me on the question.
I know. So, we all started off as, people that really worked, in the stores and, really focused on like the day to day and, really managing the day to day. Now you're in a role of being the CEO of a company and, really trying to drive the business, trying to drive the revenue, the strategy, obviously focusing on the people side. How do you, really manage that, from coming from, really working
being in the four walls?
Yeah, in the four walls to getting to where you're at now.
I think it's just understanding, like, you need when you're a leader of a company, like, it doesn't matter like what your organization is, big or small. Like when you look at your structure, right? Like you have to understand that it's just like a sports team, right? Everyone has a job to do. Like if you're playing football and you're playing 11 on 11, everyone has a certain position and a role. Do your job, right? So like when I talk to my vice president, he's so hands-on with our GM development. It pours so much into them. And I tell him, I was like, I love it. Train them, develop them, but like, I don't want to see, you doing some low-level work because the company is relying on you to make the big decisions.
For sure.
Yep.
So like, there's times where, we've had a general manager and I seen a GM stuck in a dish pit. And I'm like, dude, like you're the most expensive dishwasher there is. And like, he never thought about it like that. So it's understanding for myself. Like I go to my four walls all the time. Usually the way I structure it now, at least one day a week, I'm on the road and I'm just doing store visits to just check quality, spot check, and like meet with my general managers, meet with my team, talking to guests, asking them, what do they like, what do they don't like. So I kind of do that. And then it's understanding that right now, like what the company needs from me isn't me in the four walls, every single day. The company is relying on me to make the macro decisions. It's behind a computer, and it's sometimes heavy negotiations and, and fighting for us on growth and our expansion. And that's what my role is. And that's what my job is. So everyone needs to understand what is their job. And I think that's one of the most critical things to get you to where like, you don't feel like not a FOMO, but like, you don't feel like, oh, I need to get back into the four walls and do those things. It's like, look, that's not your job anymore. You're trusting a leader that you hired to run the four walls and really focus on the guests at a high level. Trust them, let them. And I think that as leaders as well, like I believe that you can have a certain level of like checks and balances. And sometimes we do it at Vail. We do micromanage on certain KPIs. Absolutely. I mean, food and labor, if you don't manage those two KPIs, you have no business. So for us, but we do empower our leaders to be great. And I trust my people. And I really, really do blindly to a degree, but like I have checks and balances to keep everything in place. But ultimately, I think it comes down to just, you have to come to terms with, if I want to grow my company, I can't be there. I have to focus on the macro moves that's going to get us to 25 units, 100 units and beyond.
Sure.
I like to make sports analogies. I'm a big sports guy. And one of the analogies I always say to the team is we have to play our role. And the comparison I would make is a football team. If the quarterback decides that they don't want to be quarterback for this play, they want to go play running back, you have a problem, right? Of course. And so I'm a big believer in what you're saying, that, everyone's, if you want to win as a team, you all have to kind of know how you're impacting the game and how you're taking that ball to the end zone. What you said.
Once people understand why, that's usually like when they get the aha moment of like understanding it. But the sports analogies absolutely help, and it's true. And sometimes you see it in sports all the time. People shuffle the team to win the championship, because at the end of the day, we're all competitive and we want to be number one. At least I'm in business because I want to be number one. I'm not motivated by how much I can put into my pocket. After you work enough and you buy nice things and you live a good life, that's not fulfilling. Fulfilling is trying to build something great and making an impact.
Yep, for sure. Awesome. Well, I could say we could probably sit here and talk all day. The place is starting to smell really good. We actually just had some food arrive from our friends here that we're going to enjoy. I'm getting hungry, ready to eat. We have one more question and we're going to go enjoy that. Starting with you, Casey. What would be for you, where do you see your business is going? What's the next steps for you personally and with the brands that you're managing? Where do you see them going over the next year or 2 years?
Sure. I mean, the topic came up by Matt earlier, which is you've seen a lot of businesses that are distressed and hitting bankruptcy. Our company currently doesn't have any debt, and we're looking at this as an opportunity to grow our portfolio. We currently, like, there's a lot of negotiations with other brands that are not performing well, and we have the infrastructure at our corporate offices where we believe we can provide the corporate G&A services, acquire brands that are distressed, and then grow our portfolio. So that's really a big initiative for us, is expanding the portfolio.
That's awesome. Any specific types of food, or staying within the same?
Yeah, I think the fast casual QSR space is really where I like to be. The fast casual space scares me whenever the floor plan is really large. You know, at the end of the day, we all now have 2 landlords. I think this was an Art Falcone comment that resonated with me. You pay your landlord, and now you pay your third-party delivery platform. And so with those economics, you need the smaller square foot.
That's so true. Yeah, we could talk about that for a long time. What about you, Sam?
No, I think that's really, really smart points. And we have 2 landlords. And just having that aha moment right now.
Where are you bringing Vail?
I think that, for us right now, this year, like I said, we're really focused on infrastructure. We're doing all of our deal making negotiations this year for 2026, 2027 expansion. We're hyper focused on Florida. We believe that we can open another 15 units in the state of Florida. There's a lot of incredible communities here that are health focused and centric, and that are yearning for our concept. So we're focused here, and we feel like we have the infrastructure here to really operate those units at a very high level. And then the goal is to where, we will be doing a capital raise of some sorts within the next year or two, to where we can not only scale, but scale with quality growth. Because I've seen a lot of concepts, they blitz scale, and it creates tons of friction, and it creates a lot of animosity in the organization. Scale is not always your best friend. I've experienced it on a very small level, but I've observed what others have done, and I like to learn from other people's mistakes if I can. So for me, I'm being more methodical and careful with our growth. I'm also this year expanding the business.
What does that look like too? Like when you say methodical, is that how many stores in what period of time, or what does that look like?
I think we can get to 15 units in, that probably within the next 2 to 3 years, and that's increasing our store count by 50%. I think, it's, when you're taking an approach for growth, like, you should tranche it out. And where we're at what I would consider a small count of stores, and where we're still adding in these layers of infrastructure, it would be very foolish for me to go to my organization and say, hey guys, let's raise a ton of capital and blitz scale when the infrastructure isn't where it needs to be. We're looking, and we're trying to make sure, from marketing to finance to operations, every department is ironclad or is as solid as possible to handle that bandwidth. And right now, I think that it's my job to make sure that, everyone needs to govern, when to move fast, when to move slow. And sometimes you're moving fast internally, and people don't see it on the outside because you're not growing store counts. But internally, you're doing crazy things where you're really energizing the organization and you're pouring back into it. And right now, that's what we're doing. Like, I feel like we've been moving at a blitz scale internally. Like right now, we're launching our new e-commerce site. We've launched our own supplement line as well this year.
That's really
so cool. We saw the delta. We were spending so much money on protein from buying it from another brand. We actually, by us launching our own supplement line, we're saving 50% on our protein costs.
That's amazing.
From just us doing our own, working with manufacturers. So we created our own supplement line, and now we're going to be doing a nationwide shipping for all our supplements, and building out another arm in our e-commerce side of our business, and really positioning Vail as a wellness brand, a health and wellness brand for anything food. So we're creating what I like to refer to as, like, a one-stop shop for healthy food. Whether you want a bowl, a salad, a wrap, an acai bowl, a smoothie, we want to be a brand that guests can trust and say, you know what, I need to improve my health, I'm going to Vail.
For sure. That's awesome. Fitness components too, or?
Yeah, no, I mean, I would say with our supplements, like, we're doing a lot more work with the fitness industry, but we're also doing, we're going to be energizing what we actually started with, which was our meal plan division, and we're going to be relaunching that and doing a ton more with that on our website, but finding a synergistic way to where it complements the restaurant, because we don't want to be, doing anything that's going to destroy our internal operations. So we're being very careful with how we position it to where it's not going to stress out our restaurant operations. But right now we're focusing on these tertiary revenue streams, because when we look at store counts and guest count, and I totally agree with Casey, I think shrinking the footprint is the only answer.
So
like, I don't like when I'm looking at landlords today, you know, they're like, I'm telling them, I don't want, you know, more than 1,800 to 2,000 square feet.
Yep.
And they're like, I have 2,500. I can cut it this way. I'm like, I'm sorry, man. I just don't need it.
Yep.
Because the majority of our guests are coming in, they're takeout. And we're noticing, we at lunchtime, we do have, you know, guests that stay and they dwell and they enjoy, but the majority of our business is takeout.
Yeah.
So why would I carry that extra square footage when I don't need it? And with rising costs and with how much landlords are just passing through everything triple net, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a vulnerability you don't need to have. You know, maybe 10 years ago, the bigger you are, the more like impressive you are as a brand, but 2,000 square feet is the sweet spot for us.
Yes, sweet spot.
And you mentioned something, some of our audience might be interested. You said you were going to be doing a raise. What's the size of the raise that you're going to be doing?
I mean, for us, we'd like to raise at least 10 million.
Okay.
You know, so it's not a massive raise, but we feel like we can mobilize that capital.
Okay.
Now, the way that I'm a firm believer in is, if you're raising capital, if you're borrowing money, you better make sure you got a place to place it.
Yeah.
And for us, it doesn't do us any justice if we raise a certain dollar figure that we can't mobilize in a certain time horizon.
Yep.
So for us, that's what we're looking for.
Awesome. All right. Well, you know, you guys got to help them out here, and let's raise some money. and by the way, I did lie. You guys said something. I have one more question I got to ask. So delivery companies, big hot topic, you know, taking over the industry. I love the 2 landlord comment. Love, hate, somewhere in between. Start with you, Casey. What do you think of deliveries and what it's doing to the business?
I mean, it's a necessary evil.
Yep.
Like, I mean, I don't, you can't, I mean, 50% of our business across the brands are going through those portals.
Yeah.
So, I mean, boy, I don't want to get too whimsical on everybody, but I genuinely believe, like, with automation, AI, and technology, it's moving at light speeds, light speed. You know, you think about the industrial period, and it was like every 10 years something happened, or every 20 years, and now like every 2 minutes something's happening.
Yeah.
And I'm convinced there's going to be an evolution to it. I think the antiquated pickup driver, I think there's going to be more automation some way, if it's drone technology, if there's other kind of things that might mitigate some of their expenses. And I think there's going to be rivals to DoorDash and Uber Eats that come out that challenge them on their gross margins that are just, you know, severely hindering profitability.
Sure.
Similar.
Well, and also guest value, I will say as well, because one of the issues that we're seeing, as you know, is, you know, when you put products up on Uber Eats, we're having to increase our prices on the platforms in order just to offset the commission costs, you know, so we're not losing a bunch of money just by paying out these absorbent commissions. So, you know, that's another thing as well, is guests are coming in, or they're ordering from Uber Eats or from one of the delivery platforms. They're ending up having to pay 20 to 40% more after tips and fees are included in on these platforms. And it limits the actual value, not from a price standpoint, but also from a quality standpoint, because quality, no matter what, I don't care how good your food is, your food's not going to travel as well, you know, if you're delivering it to someone rather than eating it in store. So that's one of the big things that I see, you know, me personally.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, from temperature loss to, you know, just like if anything goes wrong, remedying it, the fact that like you have a broker in between to like remedy a situation isn't perfect. You know, I was talking to a guest the other day, when these apps are not perfect. You know, yeah, they're over $100 billion organizations now. It's crazy. And
they still lose money.
And they still burn. Yeah. I mean, their market caps are out of control, but when I was dealing with a guest the other day, I just happened to pop into my Fort Lauderdale store at night. We have a promotion on DoorDash, and the DoorDash's algorithm was not applying the BOGO promotion that corresponded to the BOGO item. So somebody added to their cart, they paid, but they didn't get the second item because they didn't press that discount. It gave them the lower discount. Okay. So like for us, the guest is mad at us because they got one item instead of two. And we're trying to explain to them, look, it's their user interface. Yeah. You are their guest. Like, we're so sorry. And
that's the worst answer in the world too, right? Like, you know, it's their fault. Like,
no, exactly.
And I actually coached her over the phone. Like, can you please pull up the app, do this. And I said, look, today I'm going to give you this extra item because I'm going to do the right thing, and I'm going to go speak to DoorDash about this and get this matter resolved. But
So you just gave away 3 items, basically. Is that right?
pretty much one extra item. But it was still one of those things where it's frustrating because it's not I don't have this guest information. They don't give us the guest contact information for retargeting and things like that. There's of course, you have a lot of nefarious activity as well with people doing chargebacks and things like that. There's on the platforms. I would say there's a ton of pros too. I mean, the amount of revenue that comes in is substantial. And if you optimize your business around third party, it can transform, your company as well. I think, like you said, there's going to be more innovation, and we're using right now robot deliveries in Brickell, Miami, and
That's cool.
And it's working out really well.
So how does it work?
They're really cool little machines.
Yeah, they're
too.
little cute.
You see them drive around Miami all over the place. It's like the weirdest
So you
thing.
put the food in the machine and literally
It just drives to it.
It
Yeah.
actually is. It actually, yeah. There's this company called Pinkbot that we use, and they're small startup, but they're
that's cool.
What it does is it lowers our effective rate on Uber to 15% commission.
Wow.
So because we're doing self-delivery for those orders, and for us, that is a massive value add for us as an organization. But there's some guests that they love the robot delivery, and there's other ones that don't. Some people, they like it. If you live in a high rise, do you want to come down an elevator to then pick your food up out of a robot? Not all the time.
Yeah.
You probably just want to open your door and it's right there. So, I mean, I think, like you said, there's going to be challenges with innovation and AI and these things. And I hope, because I know how hard our operators work in our restaurants and how hard we work in this industry for nickels and pennies on the dollar. I hope that it swings, where the margins swing in our favor as innovation and more technology advances.
No, it has to at the end of the day. And, the innovation will be a huge part. It's funny, like as we're talking about innovation, I'm thinking of the first time, before delivery dudes or Uber Eats or Postmates or DoorDash, any of these companies were even around, we had our Coral Gables BurgerFi store, and we ended up starting delivery. And at first we didn't have like a car to deliver anything in, like a sign or anything. So I ended up getting a bicycle with a wagon on the back, and literally we're riding a bike to people's houses, delivering food. So to see where it started, to where it's at now, it's pretty cool. And, to continue seeing where it's going to go with drone deliveries and whatever else. And also, the robotic delivery that we're already using.
I don't think any restaurant has like the infrastructure to be doing delivery, like unless like that's your business model, like Jimmy John's.
Well, I always wondered, like, how did all the pizza restaurants do when we were kids, and the Chinese food restaurants? It never made any sense.
Does first party delivery.
Oh, really? Okay.
Delivery.
Also,
wow.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always wondered, like, how are the only brands that could do this is pizza brands and Chinese food brands?
Yeah.
They were the only brands that I've ever seen back when we were,
a lot of delivery volume.
Yeah,
with Jimmy John's, because I
or
worked at Jimmy John's, their radius is so small, they can be so efficient. It's incredible. But gentlemen, we could sit here and talk all day. It's been an absolute pleasure. Really an honor having you guys on today. And let's go enjoy some of this great food. I really appreciate you guys feeding us today as well.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure. Good job.
Appreciate you. Great job.
All right.